Unpredictability. That is what fans love and hate about the NBA playoffs. It's the reason over 5 million of us tune in worldwide for 6 weeks of intense and sometimes heartbreaking basketball. From unbelievable player performances to nail-biting buzzer beaters, the playoffs have it all. But every year, number one seeds are swept, great players go missing, and fans walk a fine line between happiness and heartbreak. One bad call, one great shot, one single moment can decide an entire team's season. And once it's done, there's no going back. So today we're going to take a look at some of the craziest NBA playoff moments, from the franchise-altering to the record-breaking and the just plain awesome. These are the playoff moments you need to see again. The 7-game format of the playoffs is brutal for fans and players alike. But if you want to know just how brutal they can be, you just gotta ask any Philly fan what went down in 2019. When the Raptors met the 76ers in the Eastern Conference semifinals, fans expected a competitive and close set of games. But nobody could have called what was about to happen next. Since adding Spurs talent Kawhi Leonard to the roster, the Raptors looked dangerous. They took Game 1 at home thanks to Leonard's 45 points and 11 rebounds, but quickly fell behind as Philly rallied in Games 2 and 3. Despite Kawhi putting up 30+, Philly was able to outscore and outmark the Great White North, leading the series 2-1. Toronto bounced back though, securing Game 4 off of Leonard's 39 points and series-high 14 rebounds. Pascal Siakam helped the Raps win out Game 5 with his own 25-point game. But Philly wasn't about to let themselves get run over. Butler's 25 points in Game 6 alongside Embiid's 12 rebounds helped the 76ers secure Game 6 and force a Game 7. The stage was set for a playoff battle in Toronto against two of the East's biggest teams. Philly's franchise star Joel Embiid put up 21 points and 11 rebounds. Butler added his own 16 points, but neither of them could touch Kawhi's insane output. Leonard scored 41 points to help keep Toronto in the fight. After 4 hard-fought quarters, it all comes down to this. 4.2 seconds left on the clock. The score tied at 90 apiece, and the Raps just called a timeout. Gasol is looking to inbound the ball, and he's got choices. Lowry is a reliable perimeter shooter, and Siakam had been having a good game, leading the Raptors in rebounds with 11. But realistically, who else but Kawhi was going to get to take the final shot? Leonard gets the ball at the logo and is immediately double-teamed by both Embiid and Simmons. Driving to the corner, Kawhi pulls off one of the craziest moments in NBA playoffs history. Kawhi had scored the first Game 7 buzzer beater in NBA history, sending Philly home heartbroken in the process. Toronto went on an iconic championship run that season and eventually lifted the Larry O'Brien Trophy, the first in franchise history. But that playoff run will always be remembered for the shot that almost didn't go in. But not all moments are franchise-defining. Some were just great to see and meant something special for a lot of fans everywhere. It's 2015, and LeBron James has just recently re-signed for the Cavs after winning 2 championships in Miami. The Cavs were heavy favorites to make a championship appearance that year. But before they could face off with Golden State, they had to deal with the East, and that meant going through Chicago. The Bulls had looked strong that season, racking up their first 50-plus win season since 2011, finishing as the 3rd seed in the East. When the two teams met in the Eastern Conference semifinals, the Cavs looked like they had a fight ahead of them. Butler was averaging 22 points per game, and fan favorite Derrick Rose had found playoff form, averaging 20 points per game and leading the team in assists. Rose showed fans a glimpse of his former self, leading Chicago to a Game 1 victory in Cleveland with 25 points. The Cavs took Game 2 thanks to LeBron's 33 points, and with the series tied up, Chicago would host the Cavaliers at home and produce one of the craziest moments in the playoffs doing so. With just 10 seconds left on the clock in Game 3, J.R. Smith sinks a three-pointer, tying the game at 96-96. The Bulls only needed 1 point to win, and with a chance to inbound the ball from the sidelines, all eyes were on Chicago. They had talent on the floor. Jimmy Butler had been on fire that entire series, leading the team in scoring. Big men Gasol and Joakim Noah were reliable, especially when a layup or a putback was all they really needed. Instead, Mark Dunleavy Jr. found Derrick Rose, a guy who had been counted out by fans, players, and the league after a string of knee injuries had turned one of the most promising young talents in a generation into a shell of his former self. But regardless of what people were saying about Rose, the Bulls obviously still trusted their point guard, and what happened next was one of the craziest moments from that entire season.
Rose trying to get open, fires away. Bang! It's over! The Bulls win at the buzzer!
The United Center explodes. The Bulls go crazy. The announcers are screaming. And Rose? Well, Rose looks like this. That buzzer beater was the last victory the Bulls would get against the Cavs that series, but it stands as proof that despite the injuries and setbacks, Rose could still be that guy when it matters most. But while some of the NBA's craziest playoff moments help build and define a team's character, others do nothing but destroy. That's what happened when the Lakers met the Spurs back in 2004. Defending champions San Antonio faced off against an aging Lakers dynasty in the Western Conference semifinals. The Spurs were in the process of building their own dynasty, having won a championship in '99 and '03. They probably would have added another in 2004, but not under Derek Fisher's watch. Going into Game 5, the series was tied at 2, and neither team wanted to fall behind. With 11 seconds left on the clock, Kobe hit a jump shot to put the Lakers up 72-71. But ex-MVP Tim Duncan answered back, draining an insane fadeaway 18-footer over Shaq and putting the Spurs up by 1 with 0.4 seconds left on the clock. Everyone thought Game 5 belonged to the San Antonio Spurs. Everyone except Derek Fisher.
They get it to Fisher. He scores! Derek Fisher scores at the buzzer!
Fisher later admitted he only sprinted off the court because he was unsure if he'd beaten the buzzer and didn't want the play to be reviewed. But the Spurs contested it, and the officials had to check the footage. It was concluded that the ball left Fisher's hand before the 0.4 seconds was up, meaning the shot counted and the Lakers won. That shot right there single-handedly stopped the Spurs from potentially three-peating, as just a year later they made their way to the finals again and beat the defending champion Detroit Pistons. LA would lose to the Pistons that same year, and for Spurs fans everywhere, Fisher's shot is forever what stands between you and history. As the Spurs proved in '04, comebacks are hard, even against a decidedly weaker team. But one player shocked the world and changed his franchise's history by doing what many believe to be utterly impossible. LeBron James. Bron is no stranger to the playoffs. In his 20 years in the league, he's made 16 postseason appearances, played in 10 NBA Finals, and won Finals MVP 4 times. But, without a doubt, what James did in 2016 with the Cleveland Cavaliers stands out as probably his craziest playoff achievement ever. Down 3-1 in the finals and up against the most successful regular team in NBA history, James did what many had considered to be impossible. He won. The Cavs had been solid in their run up to making the finals, winning the Central Division title and going into the playoffs as the top seed in the East. They swept both the Pistons and the Hawks before finishing off Toronto in 6 to become Eastern Conference champs again. The stage was set for LeBron to once again try to fulfill the promise he'd made in Cleveland almost 10 years ago. I have a goal, and it's a huge goal, and that's to bring an NBA championship to Cleveland. But unfortunately for LeBron, one of the greatest NBA teams in history stood in his way. The 2016 Golden State Warriors. The defending champs had actually beaten LeBron and the Cavs in the finals the year before, and had only gotten better since then. They began the season by going 24-0, a league record, and had the longest regular season winning streak at home at 44 games won at the Oracle Arena. That season, Golden State made history by beating the 95-96 Chicago Bulls as the team with the most wins in an NBA regular season, going 73-9. The unstoppable Warriors were led by Stephon Curry in his prime. He'd been named league MVP for a second straight season, and his partnership with Splash brother Klay Thompson made them the highest-scoring duo in the league. The Splash Brothers' unforgiving range helped shut down Cleveland in Game 1, and Game 2 was no better for Bron and his Cavs. Cleveland rallied in Game 3, and thanks to both James and Irving dropping 30-plus points, the Cavs' championship hopes were kept alive for just a little longer. Going into Game 4, all eyes were on Cleveland, who needed to make the most of their home court advantage. But a combined 63 points from Curry and Clay put Cleveland behind 3-1, with the next and possibly final game taking place at the Warriors' home court. This is when things started getting a little heated. James and Draymond Green had to be separated in the closing minutes of Game 4 after getting into a physical altercation. Green was given a flagrant 1 foul after his contact with James was deemed unnecessary and retaliatory and was forced to sit out Game 5. But the Golden State Warriors were not stressed. No team had ever come back from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals. Add that to the Warriors' untouchable home court record. But there was just one problem. One 6'9" power forward of a problem. In what should have been the Warriors' homecoming game, James and Kyrie scored 41 points each to bring Cleveland within 1 game of Golden State. James put Cleveland on his back, grabbing 16 rebounds, 7 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks, all the while outscoring everyone on the floor. The Cavs were back at home for Game 6 and were not about to take their foot off the pedal. They outscored the Warriors 31-11 in the first quarter, and Bron again put up another historic performance, dropping 41 points, 11 assists, 8 rebounds, 4 steals, 3 blocks, and only 1 turnover. It seemed like the unbreakable Warriors were beginning to show signs of stress. With just 4 minutes left on the clock, Curry was fouled out of the game after he threw his mouthguard in frustration into the stands. He became the first MVP to foul out of an NBA Finals game since Shaq in 2000. With help from Kyrie and Tristan Thomas, Cleveland took the dub and tied the series at 3. The Cavs had successfully forced a Game 7, thanks in part to LeBron's incredible back-to-back 40-point games. Now Cleveland would just have to seal the deal in the Bay Area. Game 7 was crazy close. It had 20 lead changes, 11 ties, and was the only game in the series to have a final margin fewer than 10 points. The Warriors were leading at halftime, but in the second half, Cleveland outscored them 51-40, with the Warriors failing to score a basket during the last 4 minutes and 39 seconds of the game. As the fourth quarter came to an end, James made a huge block on an Andre Iguodala layup to keep the score level at 89-89. Kyrie then hit a dagger 3 over MVP Steph Curry to give Cleveland the lead with just 53 seconds remaining. The Warriors had a few chances to score, but a heavily contested 3 from Curry and a missed shot from Spates meant the Warriors couldn't catch up. The Cavs had become the first team in NBA history to come back from a 3-1 deficit in the NBA Finals. James helped Cleveland to win their first NBA championship in franchise history, ending a 52-year pro sports championship drought in the city and fulfilling his promise from all those years ago. He was named unanimous Finals MVP and was the overall points, rebounds, assists, steals, and block leader for the entire series, a feat that had never been done before or since. Both teams would meet again in the finals, but nothing ever topped what James did in 2016 against one of the scariest teams in league history.